In that last drawing that we did from the module, we took it from a photograph. This time we're going to take it from an actual three-dimensional still life. We're not going to take pictures of it. We're going to work from the actual three-dimensional objects. And so I'm going to have you use, just to get used to using it, this device. And this is what it looks like. Get it in there where you can see it. It's called a viewfinder. And this viewfinder can be moved, the opening can be moved to where the proportion is about the same as your paper. And so the paper that we're using right now in a vertical format is about like this. And so what we do with that is we find a composition, and in this case we're going to have to move it pretty close. And I'm finding a composition. Now, those of you who are in the classroom right now, like Cielo, I'm showing this at I'm looking at 2 bottles and a pear and a shell. And then there's a skull coming out the side. And that's a really good one for a vertical format. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking through this and I'm making some mental notes about where the center is of the picture plane, and right now it's the bottle with the basket. Looking, it's an Italian bottle. That one is I'm putting it at the center of the picture plane. So in other words, the vertical line that would go through that is right at the center of the viewfinder. And the bottle next to it is just slightly under the top of the viewfinder. So that helps me, and I'm thinking now too that since I know where that is, that it's at the center, that the bottom of that bottle in the viewfinder is about 1/3 of the way through the area. So I'm going to go right now into looking at the paper itself, and I'm putting it as a horizontal, a vertical format. I can do this. And I'm trying to go up with it like this. We're going to pretend right now that it has a border around the edge. I didn't put the border on, but all of you will be putting a border on this. And it's a little bit awkward because I got the camera right in front of me. But I'm going to look right now and see about the center of the paper, just roughly. You don't have to be exact. I would just lightly say this is the center of it, going from right to left, and this is up and down. It's about the center of the page, which would mean where I said the bottom of the bottle, where the shell and the pear were, is probably about right here. And the top of the bottle of that other one is about right here. And this one is down here about like that. So these are just approximations, but it's good enough to go ahead and start sketching, just placing. This is that one bottle with the basket. And you need to be observing the shapes. Like right here at the top of this bottle, you're looking down on the bottle. From where I am, I'm looking down so I can see this ellipse at the top of the bottle. Hoping you can see that. Oops. Oops, 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 oops. Did that all messed up. There we go. I'm trying to hone in on that right now. It's hard for you to see, but I've got an ellipse here working, which is the top of that bottle. And then here is this would be the core of the bottle, and we're going to go ahead and do what we call drawing through. In other words, we can't really see the bottom of the bottle down here, but we know that it's going to match up with this part right here. That is where we can actually, if you were to draw it through the bottle as if it weren't, it would be an ellipse like that. And then this is going to be the bottom of the bottle right here, roughly. We're doing it really lightly. And this is the bottle, the top of the bottle, coming in about like this, roughly, like that. And this is a pretty easy object to draw. It's pretty predictable. And But you notice that these ellipses are going to be pretty much the same because they're not, when we talk about perspective, you'll understand why. So I'm not going to go into a big explanation right now. But this is pretty similar in many ways, not exactly. And some of you who are watching me do this, Ciela is watching me do this right now. She's probably thinking, oh my God, Miss Lane, you got this all wrong, right? But it's roughly right. All right, so now I'm going to sketch in lightly right to this part. There's a pear that's coming right at me, like this. And then there is a shell that's coming in about right here. And then I'm going to go over here, and there's a skull that comes out at the bottom here. And the eye is around in here. And you don't have to put the whole thing in. But this is the top of the skull right here. And then it goes off the edge of the paper. It'll go off the edge over here. But it's an interesting thing, but I got that off a little bit. This is the eye socket, and this is the other eye socket, and then there's this piece here. And what you'll find when you really start getting into drawing, you'll find yourself talking to yourself like I am right now. And you'll find yourself, I do sometimes, I find myself where I don't even realize there's other people around because I'm kind of involved in what I'm doing. So we're just lightly sketching that in. And now we're going to go over here and we say, okay, this bottle over here actually is overlapped and goes up like this. And then it comes over here. I'm going to make it a little narrower. We can play with that sometimes because I don't want it going off the edge of the paper. And I'm going to take it down, and it comes all the way down to about right here. It comes down almost to the same level as the bottom of this bottle here. And notice at the bottom, if you look at the bottom, it also curves around. The ellipse is coming down like this. We're drawing it lightly, coming up here, and it is taller. But this time, the ellipse is going to be, the ellipse at the top is narrower because it's higher up. We'll talk about that when we talk about perspective. And then the neck comes down like this, and roughly like this. The bottle is not the exact shape right now. I'm sketching it. I need to come back in and fix it. If I were to make it a finished drawing, I would come back here and work it quite a bit more. And then you've got this stuff coming out the top. I personally would not put that out the top because it takes it off. What it does is it drives your eye. If your eye is looking, it drives your eye out of the picture plane. We don't want to do that. So I wouldn't do that. If you want to do it, have at it. But I wouldn't do that. And so we adjust this. And then what we've done is we've just lightly laid that out. And that's all we're going to do for right now. We're going to come back in and we're going to add details. We're going to say, okay, now this pear is coming right at me. And so maybe we start right here. And we start adding those details. And we can come in later and erase these searching lines that I have here. But just start noticing shapes and relationships. And what you'll find, really, when you get into doing life drawing like this, is that you start paying attention a whole lot more to things in your world all the time. And I'm going up here, and there's a bunch of spikes on here. So when you draw those spikes on there, if you're drawing this shell, when you draw those spikes, don't just go rah, 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 like that. Look at each individual spike and say, okay, that one goes up this way, and then this one comes up here. Maybe this one starts here, like this. Pay attention to that. They're not equally spaced. They're not, in fact, this guy is actually bigger than this when you look at it here. If you look at the still life, you'll see that. Okay, so you've got it lightly laid out, and then you're going to come back in and do the details. But this should take you, by the time you get this refined, and by refined, I mean you're going to come in here, eventually going to put the label on. There's a label on it. It goes in here. You're going to come in here, and you're going to say, okay, the basket part of this thing is actually bigger than... Ciela's on her phone right now. I'm getting distracted because I just saw her get on her phone out of the corner of my eye. She thinks she's being sneaky, but she's not sneaky. That's what she just said. She's not sneaky. So what I'm doing is I'm putting in these details. So you'll want to come in here and you'll start adding those details. And then you might want to, I don't think it would really add something to it, We haven't gone into value yet, but some of you already have a knowledge of value. So you might want to come up here like this. There's bad lighting in here, but pretend you have an artificial light source. I'm not imaginary. There's a sun up there. So you're going to start, maybe you could, after you get your drawing all detailed in, you could come in and say, okay, those are some dark values right there. So you might want to do that, and we'll add some dimension to your drawing. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because it is a project, but it's not a major project. Okay, so that's the sort of thing that you can add to it too, if you have time, which you will for this particular project. So note some of the darkest areas are in here, right in here, right in here, especially down here, cast shadows, especially right in here. You're going to have really darkness because it's way down in between two objects that are casting shadows down there. So you got a lot of darkness in there and down in here. But when you start adding value to it as you finish, after you get some of the details in, it's really going to start popping. It's going to start looking very realistic. Okay? So enjoy.